Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at how the stock market downturn has affected EV companies. If you like what you're seeing here, subscribe to the channel, like the video. We're always doing these type of analyses in short form, so it's easy to digest. So looking at EV companies, we always have to talk about Tesla. How is Tesla doing in this economic environment right now?
I would say pretty well. So the first number I'm going to give you is a quick ratio, which is not that relevant for Tesla, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. They're at 0.94. Um, and the reason why that's not that relevant for Tesla is because they're profitable, so they can actually make money to cover their debts. They don't have to have cash now to cover their debts. Um, and a quick ratio is just a description of if you have enough cash to cover your debts. Um, so 2022, they had a gross profit of $20.8 billion dollars. If you round up, actually 20.9. So I would say that's pretty good.
What's a good quick ratio anyway?
I say a larger the number, the better. So um, if you're over a one, that means you're able to cover your debts. If your quick ratio is one, that means you have exactly as much money as you have debt. So you can pay off all your debt and have no money left.
So you were talking about the gross profit. They made 20 billion in 2022. What about in 2023? Do you think they're going to continue with that? Because they've made quite a few discounts on their vehicle.
Yeah, so people were really concerned about those discounts. There were tons of videos out there about like, oh, they need to increase the number of vehicles they sell, so they're decreasing the price of the car. Um, but we can look at this a different way, right? So we're in a bit of an economic downturn. So in order to get demand for your vehicle, you might need to do a discount. Or if your vehicle is too expensive to receive the IRS tax credit, you might need to give a discount so that you can get the tax credit. So, but that will impact profit, right? So that's what you're getting at. If you decrease the amount of money you make on it, then your profit goes down and then your margin goes down. So then it becomes a question of, does Tesla have the margin to provide a discount? And I would say most definitely they do, because this company is making 28.5% on their automotive segment in terms of gross margins. So that's actually really strong. And how do I know that? Because if you look at Ford, their gross margin in Q4 of 2022 was 6.7%.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
Yeah. And if you're curious about another company in the same space that's also making electric vehicles, GM, theirs was 9.2% for the full year of 2022.
So Tesla's margin is huge.
Yeah, on their autos, on their cars. So it's actually really good. They can do a solid discount and still make it out on top with a really nice margin.
Wow, okay. Then anything else that is going for Tesla?
Yeah, yeah. So that price decrease actually forced Ford to drop the price on their EVs, which is bad for Ford because if they were not making good margins to begin with, and now they have to make another price decrease, a discount, that's terrible, right? And then you can also look at Tesla's overall operating margin, which is actually also increased over the previous year. It's now at 16.8. That's because their solar business is making better margins. And also they have the Nevada factory being expanded. It's going to double in size over the next year or two, I think. And then also you have Gigafactory Berlin in Texas still ramping up production. Um, they're working on the robotaxi stuff, which some analysts, Kathy Wood, for example, thinks will bring huge revenues. I don't know if I agree with her exact number saying that Tesla will reach $2,500 or something like that. But they're saying that the robotaxi could bring huge revenues. Also, there's that Optimus robot, which has untold benefits so far.
So Tesla sounds like they're doing pretty good.
I would say so.
despite having such a large drop in their stock value.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then what about these other companies here? There's Lucid, Polestar, and Rivian. How's Lucid doing?
Okay, so Lucid has been one that we've enjoyed dragging through the mud. Um, but we need to take a look at the hard numbers here now, because before we didn't have hard numbers on all of the companies. Polestar was kind of a speculation, and then Lucid, we knew they were losing money, and not making very many vehicles. But now that they've had some time to ramp up some production, we can take a deeper look. So their quick ratio is 4.05, so not bad. Um, but the bad thing is that in the third quarter of 2022, they spent almost $700 million. So, and they only have about $3.5 billion.
So what's their plan then? How are they going to survive? Doesn't seem like they're going to be able to survive for a long time.
My guess is that they their factory is still being built out because obviously their production is not ramped up. Um, we don't see Lucids everywhere like we saw Tesla Model S's everywhere. So clearly they have a ways to go to get that production ramped up. So if they can do that, maybe they'll be able to reduce the debt, um, actually turn a profit. However, if they continue to burn money and not be able to turn a profit, like they did in the third quarter of 2022, their cash will only last them about 12 months. And then Saudi Arabia PIF will have to take them private.
They can still get bailed out somehow.
I think Saudi Arabia's PIF would be willing to bail them out.
So basically, Lucid is kind of close to needing some life support here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like their PE either. So their price to earnings ratio is negative 9.2. And that's an estimate because we don't have the full results for 2022 yet, but that's what probably what we're looking at.
Okay. Then what about Polestar?
All
I
right,
think they
so
had some report on some sort of carbon footprint thing.
oh yeah, yeah. This is something that I still appreciate about Polestar as a company and their ideals of, you know, what they're about. They and Rivian together commissioned a report saying that even though we're pushing towards EVs, it's not happening fast enough, and B, the whole supply chain is still very dependent on carbon intensive processes. So we need to hurry up, or else we'll be destroyed by climate change, anyways. So this is really interesting because it's rare to have car makers working together on commissioning these kind of reports. But that aside, Polestar is not doing great financially. So their quick ratio is 0.43.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so the
What
tables have
happened?
turned. Polestar is the garbage. Um, and not only that, in the first 3 quarters of 2022, they spent $1 billion.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I'm very confused about this because this company is supposed to be relying on Volvo and Geely for their production, so they don't need to build out any factories. So I just don't understand. Um,
Yeah, how do they have that much liabilities?
they spent $1 billion and they have $2.8 billion of debt, of liabilities.
So Pulsar is going supernova, about to turn into a black hole.
Well, I think Geely or Volvo might have something to say about that. I don't think they're gonna let their um, this new company die. They'll find a way. They might need to raise money or dilute shares. Something's gonna have to happen. But in any case, it's all bad.
So Pulsar not doing too hot. What about Rivian?
Well, actually, going back to Polestar for a second, even prior to being able to analyze these numbers, I got a feeling that it wasn't going to be as big as we were thinking it was going to be, just because Geely and Volvo each were only worth about $20 billion. So a group that's combined at $40 billion, how is that going to hatch a brand new company and value it at $20 billion? I just couldn't see it. So that was kind of part of the reason why I got rid of it, or a large portion of it prior to the merger.
Makes sense.
Unfortunate, but you lose some, you win some.
So Polestar has a long way to go, but they will probably stay around because they're making a good product, right?
Yeah, I would say their product is sick, but uh, the stock is not.
Well, it is sick actually. It needs some help.
Put it on life support.
Yeah. So what about Rivian? It's the only truck producing EV company. How are they doing?
Aside from Ford, but um, uh, this is like luxury brand stuff. And also, speaking of Ford and Rivian, Ford basically sold off their remaining stake in Rivian.
Yeah.
They kept like 1 percentage point or something like that, but it's irrelevant essentially to them. So Rivian, their quick ratio is 7.
Wow.
So they're looking good on the quick ratio, except in the first 3 quarters of 2022, they spent $5 billion. And they
Dang, how
currently,
much money do they have?
yeah, that's the problem. So they currently have about $13 billion.
Wait a second.
Yeah,
And
so
they spent 5 billion.
okay, well, we can justify that a little bit, right? So they're still building out their factory, right? So that's okay. Um, they're still having some growing pains, and their costs on goods have increased. These are all things that the company will say too, right? So hopefully, as the factory gets built out, they'll be able to turn that around and make profit and not be spending $5 billion in 3 quarters. But they need to reduce their costs. They need to reduce their expenses. They need to sell more vehicles. It's not the product that's the issue, because if you follow Monroe, who's an engineer, he says that the Rivian product is amazing. They've done a good job of engineering it well. They've done a good job of putting it together. Um, they've done a good job of like panel gaps and all of that kind of stuff. So it's not the product that's the issue. It's that the growing pains are the issue.
Hmm. Okay. So it sounds like if they can reduce their costs and increase sales, then they will actually be doing fine.
Yeah, I think so. So some people might write off Rivian as going to be dead soon, anyways, because it's just that hard to start up a new car company. I wouldn't be so quick to say that Rivian would be dead. Um, I think Rivian will probably survive. They will continue to make good product. They still have Amazon's huge order, so even if people quit buying their trucks and stuff, they still gotta fill Amazon's order. So they got plenty of things to do, even in a downturn where people may not be so interested in an $80,000 truck. They can still fulfill Amazon's order and make money that way.
So what I'm getting from all this is basically Tesla doesn't really have a competitor in this EV space. Is that right?
Right? Yeah, not at all. They're the only company that's doing the mega casting or giga casting. They're the only company that does that. Everyone else is still making individual parts and welding them together, and that takes time and money. Whereas Tesla is just stamping out the majority of the chassis of the car all at once. So it's a huge advantage, and they're still expanding. There's nobody close, not even in China. I think China BYD makes a lot of electric vehicles. Um, what's what's nice about BYD is that they actually make more vehicles than Tesla. The unfortunate thing about BYD is that their margin is like less than 2% or something.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
But at least they're making money, right?
Yes, at least they're making money. That's a
Okay.
low bar, but they're making money.
All right. Then basically, it looks like every company we talked about here, there's some sort of pathway for them to survive, despite the stock market absolutely destroying their stock value.
Yeah,
But
and rightfully so in some cases.
right. But Let us know what you guys think down in the comments below. Definitely like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will have more content for you like this.